designed our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
Monmouth in the flesh.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to the It Slays podcast. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
I'm Topsy-Cant Mike.
I'm Colton.
And it's your crusty, dusty bottle of formaldehyde, Jill.
And we are back. Jill lucked out there because I was just so ready to get into it, I almost cut her intro off and started talking. So, sorry about that, Jill. I'm just excited, always excited for another episode. And, I don't really have anything witty for the intro on this one.
Off to a great start.
Nothing. Hopefully everyone's doing well. We're an episode past the anniversary now, so now it's like we're just back in the grind now, in the meat grinder of the podcast.
Aren't we a couple episodes past now? Like last episode was Leprechaun, right?
Yeah, but that's when we announced the giveaway.
Okay.
I guess. Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the celebratory 6th anniversary episode. That's like a month ago now.
I was thinking
Rowan.
about the giveaway. Yeah, I was just happy about the giveaway. So that's always exciting. Anyway, you know what? I'm sure, let's get to what takes us always an hour to talk about what we've been consuming, what we've been watching, what we've been listening to, what we've been reading, all of that good stuff. And Jill, we're going to start with you this time.
Oh, lucky me.
And that's it for Jill. No.
That's it. Moving on. No.
Rowan is about to take out his papyrus scroll that's like 8 feet long of what he's been watching.
He's got like 20 things for sure. I finally watched Anora because it's streaming. Well, actually, I rented it like the week before it came out on streaming.
Girl.
So I paid money for it. But you know what? It was worth it because it was really good. I knew I was going to like it anyway because it just seems like something up my alley. The only other movie that I've seen from Sean Baker was The Florida Project, which I really liked. Yeah. I love that movie. And I think this one is great too. I think he does a really good job of showcasing like a reality. No, he has a very realistic, like, I don't know, representation of sex workers. And I saw like some comments on Letterboxd where people didn't like it because there wasn't like any character development. But I don't think that's the point. I think it's just trying to show you something.
There is. It's just subtle for sure. Like what's there. Yeah.
But I really liked it. Did you guys all watch it?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah, that was one I saw back in TIFF, and I thoroughly enjoyed it as well. It was the sort of thing where I remember it being like far funnier than what I was expecting going in, because I've seen all of Sean, well, not all, because the guy's been like working for like 30 years, but I mean like since he kind of came back with Tangerine and then he did Florida Project, Red Rocket, Anora, I've seen all of his stuff. So he's definitely like a filmmaker I've been watching anyways, but yeah, Anora was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought Mikey Madison was like absolutely amazing in it. And then also, I don't know his name off the top of my head, but the guy who's playing like the Russian oligarch's son that she's dating during the movie, he is like electric in it as well. Like he's just so silly and like just a little shitbag. Like, that's
such a punchable face.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I do think the second half of the movie for me was a little bit weaker than the first half, but it it just kind of evolves as it goes on. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm expecting it to just continually get a bunch of hate now since it won like 4 or 5 Oscars or whatever.
Yeah.
but I still like it.
People are mad about the
Exactly,
substance.
yeah.
So yeah, that's unfortunate. But yeah, I also thought it was really funny, which I think is kind of needed because it also like is heart-wrenching at the same time, especially with the ending. I was just like bawling my eyes out. So I appreciated the comedy. The other thing I watched was Dinner in America. Have you guys seen that at all?
That's a little indie that's been like making the rounds here the past couple of years. I haven't seen it. It came onto my radar because I think it was the Red Letter Media guys were talking about it probably about a year ago. But yeah, I still haven't checked it out. What do you think of it?
I really liked it. I had tried to watch this several times before, but I would always get distracted and turn it off. So I had to like sit down and make myself watch the whole thing. It is pretty chaotic, but I do love Kyle Gallner.
Yes. I was literally just Googling his name because I forgot it. I was like, oh, it's the guy from Smile and Smile 2, but
and Jennifer's
remember.
Body. He
plays... I mean, he's in loads of things and he's great.
Yeah.
And oftentimes he pops up in these little indie movies as kind of like a co-lead or a lead that I really like. Like he was just in Strange Darling last summer and whatnot.
Yes.
But I just couldn't remember the name. Yeah.
That was the other thing that I saw him in recently that I really liked. But yeah, he's killing it. I keep making jokes because I think he looks like the wrestler Dominic Mysterio. Like he looks just like him, especially in that movie because he plays like a giant dirtbag kind of. And I don't know. I didn't expect it to be so funny and kind of endearing and wholesome at the end. Like it's kind of a cute little love story and chaotic. I thought it was cute. And I have that stupid Watermelon song stuck in my head all the time now. So, Dinner in America. I also watched Heretic because it's finally on streaming. And I didn't have high hopes for this one just because I know what everyone else thought of it. And but seeing the trailers of it for so long, I was very intrigued to watch it. Just the concept, I think, is really interesting. And I thought it was pretty strong in like maybe the first half, and then it started to
completely
derail.
Agree. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that was like me and Colton's entire review of it when we did it.
It takes a hard shift about 40 minutes in, and just everything from then on out is just less interesting than what I thought the movie was going to be.
And Hugh I didn't like the ending.
Great. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh no, not at all. like literally the last half of the movie. I'm not joking. It was like, oh god, this is like getting worse and worse and worse sort of thing. And not what I wanted from this whatsoever.
And surprise Topher Grace in there is really funny
in a completely pointless role that doesn't even need to be in there. You could completely excise that from the movie, and I don't know if it'd make a lick of difference. But
I didn't recognize him at first. But then I was cracking up about it. But I love Sophie Thatcher.
Yeah.
I really liked her in Companion. And I thought her performance and the other girl, I forget her name.
Chloe East.
She was good too. Thank you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought I really enjoyed like kind of like the comparisons of like all the Monopoly
absolutely love
and
that.
Games. Yeah. And then religion and then the songs like Radiohead's Creep. And then the funniest thing to me was it being compared to a Lana Del Rey song. I had no idea about that. And I don't know, I thought it was cool with like the reanimation stuff that was happening, and until it kind of showed its hand too quickly, I feel like, and then it just was lost for me. But the first part of it was good. And the other two movies I watched The Invisible Man from 1933 and also The Invisible Man from 2020. And I really liked both of them. Honestly, The Invisible Man from 1933, I had like no idea like the concept of it really. It's probably, I think for me, like just a universal monster that gets forgotten about, I guess, because I had no idea. Like,
if I recall correctly, the idea for it, right? It's a man that's invisible.
Killed it, right?
Shut your mouth. But no, it's directed by James Whale, and we just did Frankenstein not too long ago, and I, totally shit the bed on that one. But I actually thought The Invisible Man was... I'm going to get shot by like Colton and like maybe Trevor, but I thought The Invisible Man was better than Frankenstein.
I haven't seen it myself, so I can't comment on the original. Whenever I'm talking about the Invisible Man, I'm always kind of praising the one from a few years ago that came out, I think, right when 2020 COVID was starting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. With Elizabeth Moss. Yeah. I'll talk about that one, but the 1933 one, I mean, the special effects on that are amazing. I expected not to really enjoy it so much because it's so old, but it really, I don't know, it clicked with me. And also, it's very campy. I think Mike would enjoy it if you've never seen it.
I haven't actually.
Okay.
I've seen several versions of it. Like I saw the Kevin Bacon one.
That's
from,
what I was just about to say. Are you
Hollow
gonna finish the trilogy and
Oh
check
my
out
God.
Hollow Man from 2000?
It's actually good, yeah.
Maybe.
But then you have to watch Hollow Man 2 also.
Oh no.
But I think this might interest Mike. James Whale was openly gay in the 30s. And
Oh yeah, they made a movie about him.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can definitely tell from the amount of camp. It's like, it's very cunty and very over the top at times, but it's goofy, right? It's funny, but it's also terrifying and just well done. And I really liked it. And I was actually listening to this is going to be so embarrassing, but I was listening to Emotionless in White Song yesterday when I was at the gym. And then I heard the laugh from The Invisible Man, 1933, which is a very specific, distinct laugh. It's high pitched and kind of maniacal. And I was like, that sounds like The Invisible Man. And then I looked it up and there's a whole sample from the movie with a quote and everything. And I thought that was really cool. Also, going back to Frankenstein, this is a really good example of a mad scientist, going mad. And just being a complete dick. The Invisible Man is such a good villain because he does not give a shit about anyone. There's nothing really anchoring him to humanity. And I don't know. I like that. And it's also based off of an H.G. Wells novel, which I haven't read. And I don't know. I think
it's good. It's a quick read.
I pulled it up on Gutenberg, but I think my issue with Frankenstein was that I really like the book, so it's hard to kind of accept adaptations of that. And because I haven't read the book for The Invisible Man, I had no certain expectations or anything like that. So yeah, I thought it was really good. Also the one from 2020 with Elizabeth Moss, totally different thing going on there. It has themes of domestic abuse and gaslighting, which is also in the other movie because it's easy to gaslight people over something you can't see and, making people out to be crazy. Both of them are really good. And yeah, that's all I've been up to. Colton, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? I've been back to work basically a lot earlier than I expected. So I've just been mostly scouting, driving around every coast and bay and, harbor everywhere, probably within a 2-hour radius around St. John's the past couple of weeks. So I haven't had a whole lot of time to watch a whole lot. But Rowan and I both checked out Opus. You could check out the Now Slang for a full review of that. But essentially, I think we both kind of came down on it. Basically, if it came out 10 years earlier, it would have probably been a lot more interesting just because it very much covers the same ground as numerous other movies that have released since then have already covered. In addition to that, I also went to the theater and did a double feature of Black Bag and Novocaine the other night.
Nice.
So Black Bag is Steven Soderbergh's second movie that's released this year, which is pretty insane. Before we started recording, we were mentioning Presence, and that just released a couple months ago, and that's by him, and that's an actual horror movie, kind of all shot POV floating camera around a house. Black Bag is a lot more of this sleek, sexy spy thriller starring Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett. And essentially, the movie feels like something that'd be from the late 90s or early 2000s, where Michael Fassbender's character is tasked with hunting down a rat in the midst of the this espionage corporation, where his wife is one of the 5 possible people that it could be. So it's kind of this idea of how much do you trust your relationship? How much do you trust the people around you? How much can you look into certain things and what are you going to find? It's largely just a pretty small, quaint movie, but it's done with a lot of style. There's loads of scenes in it where it's just 5 or 6 actors talking around a table, kind of divulging too much information, but also doing it to see how other people react to it. So it's a movie basically with a lot of dialogue, but you're watching the people's reactions and trying to gauge who the spy is or who the rat is. And yeah, it was pretty good overall. It didn't wow me or blow me away or anything, but it's 90 minutes long, and it's the sort of thing that I could see doing really well on streaming when it comes to streaming. Has a lot of style, as I said, and obviously the cast is great. So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. It was just something that, I went to the theater to check out because it had all this buzz, and it was good. Then right after that, as I mentioned, I went in the Novocaine, which this is an action movie starring Jack Quaid, where he's the assistant manager of a bank that gets robbed and essentially takes it upon himself to track down the thieves because they also so happen to like kidnap the girl that he just started dating because she also works at the bank. And it's kind of one of these movies that's been happening ever since John Wick, where it's like an everyman action movie, like Nobody with Bob Odenkirk was a couple years ago, and then there was just that really bad one with Ki Kwan. Love Hurts like a month ago. This one, he's like this confused, bumbling action hero who the only real reason he has any chance of getting like the upper hand on any of these goons is just because he has a condition where he can't feel pain. So it's basically just like Jack Quaid getting the shit kicked out of him for most of the movie, but also since he can't feel the pain, they can use like a lot of gimmicks. Like, let's say if someone stabbed him in the hand, he can just take the knife that's in his hand and kind of stab them back or that sort of thing. It was surprisingly violent and gory and silly and over the top. And I would say like Jack Quaid's physical comedy and kind of like his reactions to what's going on, it kind of helps sell the effect. I didn't find him as annoying in this as in Companion. That was kind of like one of my things in Companion, where obviously he's supposed to be like a dork and like just terrible to watch the whole movie. This, he was a little bit more endearing, and it's mostly because the reason why he's doing a lot of this is like, you know, being like a hopeless romantic or assuming that there's a spark there, or like, you know, because he's in love sort of thing. So it's a little bit, you know, easier to root for him. But yeah, it's fun. It's enjoyable enough. It's another like action movie that's kind of disposable. At least it wasn't bad like Love Hurts was.
He did like a publicity stunt campaign with the NBA for it. So I saw.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did. It was like with the New York Knicks, where he basically like every quarter he would leave and then he'd show up with like more and more casts on and like injuries.
Yeah, and that's kind of the sort of thing through the movie, because his condition's so bad that he like can't even eat solid foods because there's like a risk at him like biting his tongue and not being able to like realize that he bit his tongue and, you know, drowning in his blood or whatever. So it's the sort of thing throughout the movie, like he like gets the shit kicked out of him, but like never goes to a hospital. You know, he's always like pumping adrenaline every now and then with EpiPens and whatnot to like keep going. But like he is in real rough shape by the end of this movie. That's like part of the gag and part of the fun of it. But yeah, it's I mean, that sort of marketing campaign makes sense for it 100%. And then the only other thing that I watched that's really worth mentioning is Severance, which, has anyone here watched Severance season 2? No.
I don't have Apple TV anymore.
I saw 5 minutes of the first episode the other day. Got interrupted.
Excellent. I saw pictures because, you know, obviously the like bit that was filmed here, everyone's like, oh my God, look. And that was pretty much.
Yeah, so
I paid attention to that because I was like, oh my God, Patricia Arquette. But I haven't actually watched it.
Yeah, and I actually like worked on that episode, was there for the whole filming, you know, that's episode 8. But yeah, it was really cool. I didn't realize the whole episode was actually going to be Newfoundland. So the whole thing, other than like maybe 1 or 2 very minor set builds, was all filmed here. I will say it's probably the weakest, if not maybe, you know, certainly one of the weakest episodes of the season, but it's also because it's just like so different than the rest of the show, right? It's essentially following a character after they leave kind of like basically the show of Severance, like what's going on, right? So it's just like, oh, it's a bottle episode following Patricia Arquette going to Newfoundland, essentially, right? So it's pretty cool that I worked on that and I'm credited in the episode, which is pretty huge. So I've worked on some things that I wasn't credited on, so that was cool to see. Certainly a surreal experience. But yeah, the show I thought was pretty great overall. Specifically the finale, like it definitely like stuck the landing. This season wasn't as like just rock solid the whole way through. It sort of started really strong for like 5 or 6 episodes, and then it kind of, you know, it was the sort of thing where I felt like they were peaking too early. So they put in a couple of bottle episodes, which kind of like slowed everything down again. So then the episode after the bottle episode, you're kind of getting everyone back together and kind of establishing what's going on. So it's a little bit rocky there, I would say, in like the last half of the show this season, but it was still very good overall. I just like the core idea of Severance. And the show really expands on it and kind of shows it in some interesting ways, kind of taking them to like their logical conclusion and showing like how that procedure could impact obviously the people that are severed, but also the people around them, and how, you know, a large corporation can kind of, you know, abuse those sorts of people or like, you know, exhibit control over them to such an extreme degree that it's very interesting. And, you know, it's the sort of thing where this sort of idea, obviously without the actual surgical procedure, there's already like reports of obviously like Amazon controlling their employees to like this sort of degree, right? Or, you know, Google and Apple probably like frothing at the mouth to be like as involved in the consumers' lives as the corporation of Lumen is in this show. So a lot of that stuff I still think is really interesting. And, you know, it's pretty comparable to like what's going on nowadays. There were a couple performances this season that I just thought were like absolutely excellent. Britt Lower, she plays kind of, you know, Helly and Helena. It's kind of like this duality because, you know, once again, you're talking with a show where people are severed. So their outside personalities very different than when they're at work, right? But she has to kind of sell a character that's on like fundamental like opposite sides. And she can do it with just like body language, with very small like facial tics. Obviously the way she speaks and presents herself is completely different, but it was just like very impressive seeing her sell it like effortlessly, or like seemingly effortlessly. I'm sure it's very difficult, but she was just absolutely excellent the entire thing. And then there was another character whose name is Mr. Milchick, Mr. Milchick. And in season 1 he's kind of like almost like a lackey. Like obviously he's a presence, but in season 2 he like actually gets up into like management. And he's played by Tremel Tillman, and I believe he's the only person of color in like management in Lumen. So his narrative for a lot of the season, it's kind of like the company is like dipping its toes into like racial politics or like performative like activism at like a large company scale, and kind of showing how it's like mentally breaking him down throughout the season. That I just thought was like, there was a lot of subtlety to his performance, like even the way like he would like maintain eye contact, or like you can see like how uncomfortable he was, but like basically what he's verbalizing is completely different than what he's wearing on his face. It was just like, it's just like, I don't know, it was very impressive like watching it, like especially where it's like I can see some of these ideas actually being like on a, you know, in a large corporation. Obviously it's like over the top and like so like cringy, or like it's like, oh my god, this is insane, but it's like I understand like what they're getting at. And then also that character, he's also one of the few characters in the show that like he actually has to have a physicality to his performance, because he's like a manager, but it's also like he's in charge of the severed floor, so he has to have like this physical presence where he kind of looks a little bit imposing, like, you know, no one wants to jump him or like try and get the upper hand on him. But it's also, he has to be able to like lead, you know, a corporate mandated congratulatory dance number, right? Which is just like, it's very strange to be like obviously like this imposing stocky bulldog, but then also be able to like dance and lead a marching band and like be charismatic and just sell it. So yeah, this dude Tremel Tillman in this season is like absolutely insane. Like I loved him in this season. It was great. But yeah, you know, I just really like the show. I think it's well written. I think it's smart. It's weird. It's ominous. And they just announced that it's getting season 3, so that's great. I can't wait to see it.
Nice.
I doubt they'll be back in Newfoundland because it makes no sense based on like how the season plays out. But regardless, I hope it's just not another 3-year wait to get the next season this time around. But yeah, that's basically all I've been checking out. What about you, Mike?
What have I been checking out? Let me pull up the ye olde box of letters here now. Okay, so first of all, because y'all brought her up, Sophie Thatcher, been watching Yellow Jackets season 3, which is not mid. Shut up, Colton. Season 3 is actually really good.
To be fair, kind of... I never made it through season 1, so I can't even comment on season 3.
Neither have I.
Okay, well,
listen.
So
hard. It's just I don't have the attention span or something. I don't know what's wrong with me.
It's just a mother convention. Like, it's just all these amazing women, and apparently Hilary Swank is going to be like popping up this season, so I can't wait to see who she plays. I have some theories. Anyway, I've really been enjoying that, and really the only 2 things that I've been watching week by week, because like normally it'd be Drag Race, but like I'm like 5 episodes behind in that. So because me and my friend are watching it. The only things that I've been watching week to week are that and White Lotus.
Oh, yes.
Because obviously I'm like, I always have to make sure I get White Lotus in before I see all the fucking discourse about it on Monday. Every day.
Immediately. You have to watch that as it comes out.
Annoying. And I'm like last week I didn't get a chance to see it till Monday night. and everyone was just like making memes. They didn't even say like this is about White Lotus, but everyone's like making memes about like, you know, fucking your brother and stuff. And I was like,
was
I
the
already
Walton
know.
Goggins scene? Was that what people were talking about? Because I saw that like everywhere on social media. I didn't actually watch it, but it was like Walton Goggins talking to, God, what's his name?
Sam Rockwell.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it wasn't that. There was
Oh,
a lot
okay.
of memery about that too, but like that's not what was gagging people. What was gagging
Gotcha.
people
Okay.
was incest, essentially.
Great.
That would do it.
And I was like, oh, great. I know exactly what happened, so I need to watch this. So I've been thoroughly enjoying both of those. You know, they're like cute little TV shows. There's certainly no Severance, but, you know, it's like trashy stuff, you know, that's like fun. And
to be fair, like White Lotus does have a lot of hype behind it and like critical reception and stuff too. It's just, you know, I assume a different sort of show. I've never watched White Lotus either.
Oh my God.
I just suck at watching TV. I've been trying to watch, what is this one that everyone's talking about now? Adolescence for the last couple of days.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
you guys haven't heard of it yet.
I don't know,
yeah. It's like filmed, I think it's like 50-minute or 1 hour long oneers, like true, just like one take. And it's a new Netflix thing that everyone's talking about, or at least in kind of my circles. And I was just like, okay, I'll watch this. And I've literally had it like queued up and ready to go for 3 nights in a row. And I'll never get to it. I'd rather just sit on YouTube for whatever reason, just a mental block.
You're like scroll time.
I love White Lotus.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting to talk about it every week, but I'm watching it too as soon as it comes out, Mike. And it's so good. I'm here for Belinda. Justice for Jennifer Coolidge.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Justice for Belinda. She just keeps getting fucked over.
Yes.
And it's just, oh my God, like the cast this season, as usual, is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I love Leslie Bibb since
Same.
the 90s. So I love
Popular.
the little like trio. Yeah, popular, like Brooke McQueen forever. But like, I mean, her and Michelle Monaghan and Carrie Coon as like those like slightly competitive best girlfriends. Like, I love it. Oh my God. Like, what a holy trinity of mothers.
Are you on the Reddit? The subreddit for White Lotus?
No.
I love it because they're always talking about Leslie Bibb's character being like the Texas like super church kind of character.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, that is like so accurate.
It's funny, family of ours like lived in Texas for like 7 or 8 years, and from everything that I hear from them, I was like, this seems very recognizable. Yeah, so that's like show wise. Movie wise, I actually, when we recorded the week before last, I rewatched for the first time in eons. I've been meaning to do a rewatch of both of these movies, but I only watched the first one, Lady Snowblood, aka, as apparently everybody on Letterboxd is doing their reviews, oh my God, this is like Kill Bill. I'm like, yes. We all know Quentin Tarantino loves, you know, like martial arts movies and stuff. And, you know, his movies are all pastiches from other films.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes.
He would readily admit that for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that the one Willow was talking about the other day when she was on?
I'm trying to remember now.
Yeah, I think so.
I think she did, yeah.
Oh, probably because I was talking to her about it when I was watching it.
Okay.
And then I forgot to mention that I watched it because I watched it right before we recorded last episode.
Okay, gotcha.
And I was like, this was actually a good movie I watched, and all I talked about was like fucking the trash I was watching. It's fucking TV movies. Like, anyway, yes, so Lady Snowblood, fucking slay, like, just beautiful movie, so influential. It's on Criterion, so you can like stream it there if you have Criterion. Also on Criterion, I watched the documentary called Gay USA, and it was made in 1977, and it was like they documented like gay rights marches in like 3 cities in the States. And like it was massive, and just like, you know, we're filming it and just like talking to all the people there, like the weirdos who were there and like don't quite agree with it, and the people who are like in the march, and just people who are like they're supporting, and it's beautiful. And I fucking like cried like 8 times, and then I was like, oh my God, watching this right now, like literally with the state of the USA is like, ugh. Like, bring us back to the 70s. Like, at this point, it's like, Jesus, just going down the toilet even faster than anybody could have predicted. But it's such a beautiful movie. It's amazing. It kind of like might give you a little bit of hope that there are people in the world who are not pieces of shit. And don't agree with it. But I did watch some more trash. I rewatched something that I used to rent from the video store with my friend when we were in like junior high. And it's called Sorceress. Starring Julie Strain, who some people know as like a Shannon Tweed-esque erotic thriller lady from the 90s. She has her boobs out in every movie for 90% of her screen time. They are phenomenal. She has a phenomenal body, but
this is on brand for you, Mike.
Very on brand, yeah. And Linda Blair is in it. Hilariously, this was like when Linda Blair was like maybe, I think before she had a little bit of a comeback when she cameoed in Scream, and people were not appreciating her. But yeah, so it's just this like straight to video fucking witchcraft revenge horror movie, but just with a lot of plastic enhanced bodies and fucking.
Yes.
And dubious witchcraft rituals. I'm like, okay, cool. So you're casting the spell by just rubbing oil all over your tits. Got it.
Hey, sex magic.
Listen, it wasn't sex magic though, so that would have made sense. Anyway, I rewatched that. It was as trashy as I remembered it being. It wasn't unenjoyable. It was kind of like campy and bad, but like I was watching it by myself instead of with someone. And usually when I watch these movies, it's with friends and like we're having a few drinks or whatever. So I was like, it just didn't hit as hard when I'm like have nobody there to make fun of it with. But I was texting my friend that I used to watch it with, and I'm like, oh my God, guess what? But, and then last night, we had a little, like, double feature. The theme was fucked up family dynamics. And the first movie we watched was classic favorite of this podcast. Well, me and Rowan anyway. Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker.
Nice.
One of the greatest of all time, because I got the 4K like a month ago and just never watched it, so it looks beautiful. Severin did an amazing job. It's such a slay movie. It's weird and over the top and like somehow like Shakespearean and Freudian and Greek tragedy and a slasher movie and gay, like just all rolled up. Susan Terrell is in it, and she gives the performance of a lifetime. She should have gotten an Oscar, but she was someone in love with her son and shit. So in a horror movie, so no Oscar for her. But in my heart, she got one that year. So I can't remember who won in 1984, but in my books, you lost. And the other movie in the double feature was one that I had never heard of before, but Willow had a Blu-ray of it. It's this like I jokingly said the budget of it was $500, and I'm probably not far off. It was from 1984, and it's called Blonde Death, and it's this weird shot on like VHS. Like it looks like an old VHS that I would have had that I taped shows off of TV on, and it's like about this teenage girl whose mother or stepmother and father are like really fucked up, and the stepmother is evil, and she essentially kind of turns into this like Bonnie and Clyde sort of like murder spree movie, and it's really bizarre and campy and fucked up, but like for something that has no budget and people that I'm sure never acted before in their lives, I like could not take my eyes off of it. I'm obsessed with it. The stepmother's name is Clarette, so all I could think about was like the chewing gum Clarettes. Yeah. And it's so much fun. Like I have to say, I'm pretty sure that it's available on the Internet Archive to download. So like Blonde Death, everybody should watch it because it's so much fucking fun. And like I never heard of it before, and now I'm obsessed with it. So yeah, go watch Blonde Death. Buy the Blu-ray if you can, or just hit up that wonderful Internet Archive, archive.org. Trademark. That's pretty much all I have put in my eyeballs. Rowan, get out that papyrus scroll you got there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a decent size. It's kind of funny because I thought for sure, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be the first time that I have like two things. And then I just kind of like the last couple days, I've had some time to really watch stuff. Like Colton said, we saw Opus. I don't think Jill said anything about it, but we also did an Outslaying on Night of the Zoopocalypse that's out. And so you can go hear our thoughts on that. It's kind of rare, I feel, that we do like kind of like kids gateway horror. So you can hear our thoughts about that. I kind of was all over the place with my watching, just like watching stuff that was on my list that I had missed in the theater or, you know, for whatever reason. So to start off with, I finally saw Venom: The Last Dance. And, wow. And, I mean, I didn't, you know, I probably wasn't as offended as I should be about it. Like, I had a good time with it just because. Do
they dance? Is it a musical?
No, it's not a musical. But I mean, it's
like the Joker, Folly Adu.
That is much more of a musical than Venom: The Last Dance, yes. I would assume.
Yes, this one is just pretty silly, and you know, it's kind of doubling down on what this whole Venom trilogy has been. You know, simply just I find as they've gone on, well, it's just been, you know, Tom Hardy and Venom just being like sillier and sillier, and the jokes being funnier. And, you know, I think it's a funny series just because I'm like, this is awesome. Tom Hardy looks like he has an awesome time doing these. I know it's like his like good personal friend that like she like writes or directs them or something. So it's like kind of like a project he gets to work on with people he enjoys working with. And you know what? I thought, like, I've seen worse things. Like in the MCU, I've seen worse things where this just really doesn't take itself that seriously. And, you know, this is the one, like, since it's the final Venom, or at least for Hardy, it seems that, you know, there's like 8 million symbiotes in this, so you kind of get all the ones from the comics. And you know, I thought it was just a good time, like, if you don't take it serious.
So it was like the what's it called? Infinity Gauntlet, but of Venom movies.
Yeah, essentially.
Interesting. Okay.
Then I got to check out Last Breath. And this was really just like a random cue it up. The ads for this have been playing for me online forever, and I just keep skipping them because I didn't really care. And then I couldn't figure out what I wanted to watch, and I was like, I don't know, this seems like it'd just be like something to put on. Like, I think I watched it like 3 a.m, and I actually ended up really kind of enjoying it. It's like a super dad movie, you know, like men doing like hard jobs, doing incredible things, saving lives. It's based on a true story. I thought it was kind of interesting that apparently there's like a famous documentary about this. I've never seen it, but the guy that directed the documentary also directed the movie. So I thought that was kind of cool. And this, it's got Woody Harrelson and what's his name? Simu Liu. Is that his name? Simu Liu?
Oh, yeah.
Simu Liu.
Yeah. Who I generally don't like really in stuff. And I thought he was really good in this. And it was a very like, pretty intense story. It kind of reminded me when I watched Fall and how much I liked Fall because of how scared of heights I am. And the only thing that scares me possibly more than heights is water. I can't swim. I have panic attacks if I'm like, you know, in a lake or something. Like, I don't go in lakes. I don't do anything like that. So, you know, this whole story about deep sea divers and like a guy like, you know, drowning and running out of oxygen. I was like, just sweating bullets the entire time. And it probably helps that I don't know the real story, so like I didn't know what was gonna happen. But yeah, for a dad movie, like if you're visiting your dad, like your dad's gonna like this. This is this is a dad movie, and I thought it was a pretty well done dad movie. I also checked out The Electric State.
Wow.
Because everybody else was, and it was kind of, I feel like, the talk of the town this last week.
Flop of the town, you mean? Ooh.
Yeah, it was.
Got him.
I wanted to see it because I had heard like a couple podcasts bring it up, and I had read stuff about it, and I was like, there's no way like it's that bad. Usually these things are at least like, you know, to star. Like, it's like, all right, whatever. This is like that bad. I was like, this is one of the few times that I was like, everyone is correct about this. The acting is terrible in it. Like,
neither one of them can act anyway, as far as I'm concerned.
But even like, this has so many like good actors in it.
Oh yeah, I only know
Coleman Domingo
Pratt
is in this.
Oh, interesting.
Wow. Okay.
But the thing is that everyone just did Zoom calls because most people in this are just faces on a screen built into a robot.
So what did they spend the $300 million on then, Rowan?
I don't know. I mean, I guess they're going to say, like, you know, this is like a Foley CGI fest. But, like, I can't even believe I'm saying this, but I'm like, at least Marvel has, like, a look, and they have, like, it looks all right. Like, this just, like, none of the stuff looks good in this. It looks like CGI from years and years ago. I mean, I'm going to assume they spent the money, you know, to get Coleman Domingo, who is in this for like 40 seconds. Like, it's a lot of people popping up that are in this for like 40 seconds to 2 minutes. And I think that's where the money went. It was like, let's just pay all this money. Like, Stanley Tucci, you know, coming off the Conclave here, is like the villain in this, who's obviously supposed to be like this evil Steve Jobs. And,
oh my God, he's perfect for that.
Except it sucks. And I mean, you can even tell with him, like, you know, it's not Stanley Tucci's fault. I'm sure they gave him a bag, and he's hamming it up. But it's like the script is so, like, these are the movies that people are like, AI wrote this, like, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Millie Bobby Brown is like atrocious.
Holly Hunter was in it? What?
It's just
girl
so
as a
bad.
voice, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Were the robots at least cool, Rowan? Because I was actually familiar with like this artist's work years ago, like probably back in like 2015. He'd probably be one of like the few wallpapers like cycling through my laptop at the time, like some of his stuff.
So as I was watching it, I discovered I didn't know this was like a graphic novel or something. It was like some sort of story. So I've never seen the actual artwork. I mean, the robots were fine. It's kind of a lot of, I thought, designs that we've seen in other science fiction stuff about robots. Okay. They try to, obviously, you know, this has a lot to do with, like, corporate America and things like that. So, like, you know, Woody Harrelson voices one of the leader of the robot resistance, which is Mr. Peanut, which is obviously just the peanut guy from the peanut brand. Like, he has a monocle and a cane.
The Planters Peanut?
Yeah,
guy?
like, it's the Planters Peanut guy. And I don't know, maybe he is supposed to be Planters Peanut. They don't say Planters, but I don't know. Maybe they licensed stuff out. It's just really weird. It's set in the 90s. It's supposed to have, like, this 90s nostalgia. But, like, they don't use music from the 90s except for, like, there's only, like, maybe 1 or 2 licensed songs in this.
Is there an N64?
No, I think it's, like, an Atari. Like, they sell older stuff.
That's too old.
Like, it's just really, really weird. It's just bizarre. It was a bizarre movie. I didn't enjoy it at all. It's like, it's got to be my least favorite thing I've seen on Netflix. One thing I did enjoy, so, you know, I've said before, I listened to the Rinners Big Picture podcast, and they're doing the 25 for 25 this year. So they made a list of like 25 of the best, or their opinion of the best movies made in this quarter century. And number 25 was Michael Clayton, and I have never seen Michael Clayton, so I'm kind of using this.
And I also missed that podcast by them because I've been listening to them off and on as well.
So it's a great little series because the episodes are only like 30 minutes long. And yeah, I'd never seen Michael Clayton. I knew that Tilda won Oscar off of this, and there's lots of people I listen to that say how great of a movie it is. And so I watched it and I really, really enjoyed it. It's the George Clooney performance that you kind of really enjoy out of him. It's kind of quiet, but serious. Tony Gilroy directed this, who's obviously like a very famed screenwriter. And by no surprise, the screenwriting is like absolutely insane in this. This is, You know, it's about like corporate espionage and it's like a very serious, you know, plot line, basically. Lawyers going after like a Monsanto type thing, but like what would those companies do in order to not have information leak out? So, you know, you have like hitmen and like stuff like this, but it's not played like an action movie. It's like literally played like, I want to say a courtroom drama, but there's no more courtrooms. It's basically like just lawyers' offices and phone calls. But yeah, this was fantastic. I really enjoyed that one. So yeah, me and Exilia watched Devil in the Family, The Fall of Ruby Frankie. I think Jill brought it up last episode, so I didn't know anything about this other than what Jill said. We just kind of turned it on, and yeah, it was nuts. Just continues my theory of YouTube families are just terrible. They're like never good. Yeah, and Mormons, apparently. So, yeah, I got use of a Mubi account, so I've been using that, trying to decide if I want it. Although, $17 a month is pretty wild.
Are you talking about Mubi?
Yeah, it's Mubi. We had a conversation about whether it was Mubi or Mubi. It is Mubi, apparently. So I finally got to see what Instagram's been trying to tell me to watch for like 2 months now. I got to see Grand Theft Hamlet, and this was awesome.
I've been meaning to watch this for a while. Everyone's been talking about it for like a year, that it's way better than it should be. I didn't realize it was a documentary, so that's much more up my alley. I thought it was just actually like Hamlet and Grand Theft Auto, and that's it.
So yeah, I guess if you don't know what Grand Theft Hamlet is, it's basically these two guys from the UK that are like out of work actors because they made this during the pandemic, and when everything was like heavily shut down, and they were playing a lot of GTA, and essentially, you know, they were like, hey, what if they found like a empty arena in GTA that was like a stage with seats, and they're like, what if we put on Hamlet in GTA? So it's basically, you know, just this whole story of them like trying to recruit random people that like are playing and be like, hey, do you want to come do Hamlet? And, you know.
So it's like GTA roleplay?
Essentially, but as you suspect.
Do they comment on that at all, Rowan? Do they mention like how this was a really popular thing? Like in the pandemic, like people doing GTA RP?
No, not at all. I don't think they knew. They seem like they're probably like, you know, 30, 40. Like, I feel like they're not heavy gamers.
Okay.
But yeah, and you know, it's what you'd expect. Like, you know, they ask kids, then kids just shoot them in the head, and you know, then they got to start all over again. But it's like finding like-minded people, and you know, one of the actors, like, they decide that his partner is gonna, like, start filming, and everything's done in-game. Like, when they're talking to each other, they're talking in-game. But I just went into this, like, not expecting to be so emotional. I've seen a lot of, like, COVID-19, like, lockdown stuff, and it's kind of whatever, but this was, like, triggering. Like, I was like, just because, you know, these guys, not only are they dealing with this, but they're, like, having conversations about, like, you know, these guys were, like, scared that their careers, like, were just done, and that, like, is anything ever gonna open, and, you know, how am I gonna make a living? How am I gonna pay the bills? And just, like, you know, one of the guys single, and he's just, like, talking about how his family's, like, all passed, he's the only one, and how he's had, like, no contact with anybody, and it like, physically or anything, and it's just, like, yeah, it was kind of upsetting, and, you know, I won't tell you whether or not they managed to pull it off, but go watch it, because, you know, you cry, you laugh, it was a good time. Then I got to check out another documentary that has been just constantly coming up on my Facebook feed, which is Witches.
Oh, no. I haven't heard of this one.
And this was really, really good. So especially if you're a movie person like us, so basically this woman, Elizabeth Sankey, basically is talking about her story of postpartum depression and, you know, just stuff that you probably most people wouldn't be comfortable talking about out loud. Like, she was talking about how, like, she was, thinking about killing herself, thinking about killing her child, just like really bad. She was in a bad mental state. They actually, I guess in the UK, she was talking about they actually have places specifically for this, that are like mental health facilities, but it's for this like severe postpartum depression. So she tells this story, but it's all interconnected by witches and witch movies. So she's playing like clips from The Witch and The Witches of Eastwick, and to talk about her story, and basically kind of her thesis is that she is wondering if, the Salem witch trials, a lot of this stuff, if there wasn't a lot of women that were dealing with postpartum depression and stuff, because of like things I didn't know. She was talking about that, like severe cases, like they'll hallucinate.
Mm-hmm.
She was they interviewed one woman that talked about how she was actually convinced that like the devil had infected her child, and she all she could think about was like she was gonna have to kill her child so it wouldn't be possessed.
Mm-hmm.
And then they talk about like real sadly fatal cases of people that reached out for help and didn't get it and ended up like they talked about, I can't remember her name, but it was like a prominent doctor who actually dealt with mental health, and she got postpartum depression and she killed herself and her child.
Was this
like
the one in Newfoundland?
No, this
Turner?
was in the UK.
Oh, okay.
This was in the UK. Yeah, and it was really well done. It was very interesting for a topic like I don't really know like a whole lot about, and I was just kind of transfixed. And like I said, it was cool to see all the clips down, and it was just done in this very interesting way. I really enjoyed watching that one. And then yeah, the last two I watched Werewolf from 2016. I saw Colton saw this.
Yeah, I'm shocked that you've seen this. So I just searched it up. It only has 2,300 ratings on Letterboxd. So it's very small. And this was one that basically at TIFF, I always try and seek out like a Canadian like indie movie, or at least I used to. And this was one that I was just like, I looked through the Canadian section, pulled this out of nowhere, watched it. And yeah, I'm just shocked that someone else has seen it.
So it came up, unlike the name, it's not a horror movie. It's, I guess it could be horrific. It's about addiction and codependency. It's shot in Nova Scotia. They shot it in Halifax. I liked it. There's a lot of issues. It's like a first-time film for the director. It's shot extremely close up, so like you almost feel like you have like super zoom in on the picture. So you like someone will be talking to someone else, and all you're seeing is like the lower half of their face at like extremely close. But I thought it worked sometimes it didn't. There were some pacing issues with it, but I thought it was a kind of cool idea where, it is about drug addiction, but it's about like the mundane of drug addiction. So like every day, living with it. And it's not necessarily that like anything crazy or exciting happens. It's just like what that life looks like. And, someone, especially in a relationship where someone's trying to get clean and out of it and keep getting pulled back. So it was an interesting watch. And then just because we can't escape it, my last watch, an Oscar watch, I said I would get them slowly. I saw The Girl with the Needle. I know Colton was talking about this.
Like a month or two ago, I mentioned this one, yeah.
And 100% Colton was right. Like, I don't know why it's not listed as a genre of horror. Like, it's like some disturbing topics, and it's pretty horrific. There's lots of horrific things in it, and it's shot amazingly. I was very transfixed on this. It was... the black and white was done gorgeously. Like, all the performances were amazing. I put it in my Letterboxd review that it, I don't know why, but it really gave me like Nightmare Alley vibes. I mean, maybe that was because obviously, like, the husband in it ends up working in like a freak show circus and that kind of era thing. But I just felt like kind of the dark themes and the vibes of it, of like kind of people just literally like in the gutter, like just trying to survive. and make do. I thought this was fantastic. I thought this was really, really good. So another one knocked off my Oscar list. Maybe I'll watch The Brutalist someday. We'll see.
Oh.
But yeah, so that extra long, what we've been watching there. It won't be so long for you guys.
That's what he said.
Out, but yeah.
She said.
So let's get into our film. This is your pick, Colton. So why don't you introduce it and let us know why you chose it?
Yeah, so my pick is 2006's The Host. And I think kind of why I wound up picking this out at the end of the day was just since I saw Mickey 17 so recently. And I think just Bong Joon Ho was on my mind after that movie. And I was kind of like, okay, what am I going to pick for this episode? And I went through, my private letterbox list of everything I want to pick eventually on the show. I was like, oh, The Host. Yeah, I can't share that publicly, just got some good picks on there. And I just checked, and I don't think any of you guys had this logged on Letterboxd, so I'm not the sort of person that usually I pick, my most favorite movies ever to discuss. It's just kind of like, okay, well, we haven't done a creature feature in a while. We don't often do foreign language. And, I don't think there's really many other options on the show that we're going to have to talk about Bong Joon Ho really at all. And I'm a huge Parasite fan. So this was as good a choice as any. So yeah, that's why I picked The Host.
Well, then let's get on over to the trailer and we'll be back with the synopsis and first experiences.
Something is ready to start feeding.
Why didn't you contact the military, a human rights organization, something?
One of the greatest monster movies ever made. The Host, rated R, now playing.
The Host was directed by Bong Joon Ho and written by Bong Joon Ho, Won Jun Ha, and Chul Yun Baek. And the story is as follows. Several years after the American military carelessly dumped chemicals into South Korea's Han River, a creature emerges from the tainted waters, preying upon and terrorizing the local residents. But when the creature abducts the daughter of street vendor Gong Do, he and his family soon come to realize that together they are the only ones that can save his daughter and put an end to the creature once and for all.
So our first experiences, is this our first time seeing it, or do we hate watch it because we don't like anything that criticizes America around here?
No.
Jill, we'll start with you.
Did you ask if is this my first watch? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes, it is. And I still have Parasite on my list. It's like number one on my watch list.
God.
And I just never am in the mood to watch something serious and actually have to pay attention. So I keep putting it on the back burner. So I'm actually really glad that you chose this. Nathan on my other podcast is a really big fan of Bong Joon Ho, and he's always talking about this and Snowpiercer, I think. Yeah. And Parasite. And so, yeah, every time we do, at least, I think every foreign movie we do, I think we all end up really enjoying it, especially if it's from Korea. So I was excited to see it. I wasn't so excited about the fact that it's about a river monster because I don't fuck with things from under the water. So that was quite terrifying for me, especially with the kind of opening scenes of the dark water and just something lurking beneath. Just from that opening shot in the lab with, a million dusty formaldehyde bottles, something messed up is coming out of there. And you see the movie poster with the tentacle curled up holding somebody. So I knew it was going to be spooky. And I don't know what it is about Korean movies, especially horror. They really just make everything so scary, in my opinion. And, I was excited. Is this your first watch, Rowan?
Yeah, I don't want to say it's been on my list because I don't think I've ever, made an effort I should watch that. But I've seen it. I know people talk very highly of it. I've also only ever seen Parasite from this director. I really enjoyed Parasite, so I have been interested in seeing what else he does. But I feel like if Colton hadn't picked this, it probably would have been at least a very long time until I would watch it. What about you, Mike?
I've actually, well, I guess I could say I've had it on my list. Yeah, it's sort of been on my list for years. I've just always really wanted to go back and watch it, because I remember at the time that it came out, I didn't really, everybody was saying that it was really good, and, you know, it was making like a big splash, kind of like internationally, but I just like, the artwork was just so, like, it looked kind of stupid to me. So I just never, I was like, no, I kept bumping it down my list. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, I'll watch that some other time. And then, you know, like, obviously he's done a lot of high profile stuff the last, I don't know, 10 or 15 years. And I was like, yeah, I need to watch this. So I was actually really glad when Colton picked it. So this was my first time finally getting to sit down and give it a whirl.
Yeah, and for me, this is a bit of a weird relationship with this one. So I remember this movie from, God, I guess it probably would have been junior high, where my art teacher, like, we had art class in Labrador, but it's basically you go to art class, some people draw on pieces of paper, some people paint, most people just sit around, fuck around, and just chat and don't do anything. And I remember my art teacher at the time, she was a bit of a weeb. She was always talking about anime and whatnot. And she was like, oh, this movie, The Host, you know, it has a monster in the water. She's like, we should watch it. So anyways, she put it on her laptop screen in the front of the class. And I remember I was like, oh, what is this? And I kind of like saw the monster in the beginning of the movie, kind of, you know, running around on the shore. And I was like, what the hell is this movie? So my first experience of seeing this is like watching it over the course of like 2 or 3 art classes when I was supposed to be doing art.
And then instead I was watching The Host. Art.
Exactly. I wasn't making art. I was consuming
Yeah.
it. So that was the first time I've seen it. And I've seen it a couple of times since then. But I this is the first time watching it post-COVID. Weirdly enough, I checked. The last time I watched it was in February of 2020, and it must have been because it was like Parasite was gearing up for the Oscars or something like that.
Yeah.
So this is the first time I've watched it with that lens, and I will say the movie feels a little bit different to me now. But yeah, I've seen it a handful of times. I'm a huge Bong Joon Ho fan. I've seen all of his movies, other than I think he disowns his first actual movie that's called Barking Dogs Never Bite. I haven't seen that, but I've seen like, you know, Mother. And, oh, is it? Okay.
I think all of his movies are on Tubi
right
now.
Actually.
Tubi. Yeah, but yeah, I've seen like Mother and obviously Okja and Snowpiercer. Memories of Murder is excellent. That movie is like, I would say it's probably his second best movie out of everything he's done. But yeah, Parasite is just, you know, number one in my heart. I absolutely adore that movie. So yeah, I've seen it probably 3 or 4 times, I'd say, throughout the years, but this is the first time in probably 5 years or so.
All right. So with that, let's open up the dams, the floodgates, and talk about what I was a little disappointed it wasn't a full-out henchai film.
That's what you want to get into right away.
Well, no, I just
not enough tentacles.
Well, when I saw the cover, I thought it was just going to be like a bunch of tentacles, and
there was a lot of tentacles.
There's 0 tentacles. It's just
tails.
a tail. It's
0
just
tentacles.
That's a tentacle, basically.
No.
He uses it like a hand.
In the scene with the fisherman. The scene with the fisherman at the beginning of the movie where they catch it in the cup and they go, oh, how many tails does it have? You know?
Is that a mistranslation? Those motherfuckers were tentacles, I'm telling you.
But I think it can be both a tail and a tentacle. So I'm going to like...
It has no suction cups, guys. Come on. It's not a tentacle.
It doesn't need suction cups. It was like a hand. He was very like utile with that thing.
That's true.
Yeah.
I was going to say, my first note on this was actually, which I kind of look goofy now when I write it. It was the whole intro. I was like, oh, this is, kind of like a classic monster setup. It's like silly and stupid. I'm like, but like idiots wouldn't do that. And then,
based on a real incident.
And then I was like, Mike looks confused. Yes, Mike, there actually was a monster that did all this damage.
Okay.
No.
Not that part, but the pouring the formaldehyde down the drain. There was apparently a famous incident where it was like Americans called the McFarland incident, where basically the Americans disposed of a bunch of formaldehyde. I think it was like hundreds of bottles by just pouring it down the drain. It all got pumped into this river. And essentially it was a big like incident between Korea and the U.S. and a bunch of drama.
Not surprised, honestly.
Well, America always behaving like a bunch of dumbasses.
Yeah,
also, I'm like, haven't you ever heard of Swiffers? Like, literally, that's perfectly good formaldehyde. Just Swiffer it off. It's all good. Oh my god, it's dusty. The bottle's dusty. Quick, pollute a river.
Make a good point.
Cause it. I'm just saying.
What is that
I'm like,
about?
where's the fucking Swiffers, man?
The duster.
I don't care. 2006.
The Swiffer
You
duster.
could have taken any Swiffer duster. You could have taken a fucking wet face cloth. Anything.
Toilet paper.
True.
Yeah. I just, I thought it was interesting, and this is going to be maybe my praise. This throughout this episode is going to be my praise and my my hatred. It is like, I liked it at first for it's like, because it was silly. I mean, it was like kind of this silly tone, and I'm like, okay, like this is gonna be like campy, and it's like this, just it's a real good classic intro to a monster movie. Like we're dumping chemicals in the water, something's gonna transform.
You got Herschel from The Walking Dead there,
Yeah.
Just, yeah, with his very thick American accent there,
Yeah, I'm like, okay, this all makes sense, and throughout this, like I'm so interested to hear you guys talk about it, just because I'm interested. Like, I'll say straight up, like, I don't think the tone of this movie really worked for me whatsoever.
What?
That's probably like giving my bag away right
stop
away.
It.
But like,
what was funny for me is Jill in her intro was talking about how scary this movie is, and I'm more on Rowan's side when I was watching it as well. I was like, this is like a goofy, zany
comedy,
old time. Yeah, like this is.
Hear me out.
Like, don't get me wrong. There's moments of like creature feature in there, like dramatic moments for sure. But it's like, the bumbling dad played by, Song Kang-ho, Gong-do. He's just like such a fucking failure and like so pitiful that it's like seeing him in this just kind of bumbling around, tripping, falling over himself, just like. Yeah, there's an element of just zaniness to it, like when I was watching it, that I didn't remember that being in the movie. Because Parasite is a very weird tonal mishmash as well, right? But this one, when I was watching it, I was like, oh, I don't remember it being quite as silly.
Well, it's just like the musical cues and everything.
Oh my god, yeah, it's almost like circus music playing at some points when it, like the monster is like waddling around. Yeah,
and
good stuff.
All I could think about, and probably the only time these two movies will ever be like put side by side, but was when we talked about, I think it was Halloween 5, like when the cops are always on screen and then they play like this like silly like 30s comedy music and they're like bumping into each other. And I'm like, that's essentially what this is doing. Like, it's just whenever this family is kind of together, it's like this silly music and like the scene where they're all gathered kind of in like whatever it is, the gymnasium or whatever.
And they're rolling on the floor.
Oh, it's crazy, yeah.
Wrestling with each other.
Wrestling and slipping, and which I feel kind of bad because when I was like trying to read up on, because obviously I'm like, what is supposed to be the tone of this movie? And I'm reading, and apparently that whole scene was improvised, and I was like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
That's like a classic Bong Joon Ho scene, though. Like, having the family kind of all like writhing around and climbing on top of each other and like clambering, and like, the emotions are dialed up so high. Like, that happens in like Parasite. It certainly just happened in Mickey 17. When I was watching this, I was like, oh, he always does this. Like, there's always the family unit that are kind of like clawing at each other and tearing each other apart to some degree. So that scene, even if it was improvised, like, it felt very like, consistent with the rest of his filmography. But I agree, Rowan, it's like you're at like a vigil essentially, and it's like the emotions are like, obviously at a vigil the emotions would be really high, but in terms of the performances, they're like so larger than life and theatrical and like over the top in that moment that I found it a little bit strange as well. But Jill, we're talking, it seems like you kind of might feel a little bit different.
Yeah, actually, because the tone, I agree, it was goofy, it was super funny, and to me at the same time it was also like pretty dark at times, and but it really worked for me. That's what kind of made me interested, because I wanted more dialogue between the family members, because I thought it was hilarious that they're just like nitpicking at each other, and the dad's just like, yeah, my son's an idiot, while he's like asleep, or so they think, and they're all just talking mad shit on him. And the father is still very much like, and that's one of the things I like about it too, is that yeah, they talk smack about each other all the time, or they bicker or don't get along and fight. But at the end of the day, they're going to like the ends of the earth, you know, in dangerous situations to try and save the little girl and like the family. And I really like that. It kind of reminded me of Train to Busan, just like that, like how endearing and wholesome like that tight family unit kind of was. So I don't know if that's like a cultural thing in Korea. But I just want to say, hear me out on this being really scary for me, because you guys know I don't mess with like opaque bodies of water. I'm really scared of underwater stuff because I don't know what's down there. Could be dead bodies, could be fish. I'm terrified of fish and any kind of sea creature. So to me, that's like the scariest thing that could happen. It's like, looking over this bridge at night and seeing this black water and someone thinks they saw something and like tentacles and just the image of the monster kind of hanging on its tail like under the bridge, and they're like, what is that? I love that. And it starts moving. I think it's so scary. And I also love the monster design. I think it looks really good, and every time we see a different like facet of it, and it just keeps showing us more and more physically about the monster, which I think is really cool. It kind of does like alien things with the mouth and like more mouths inside the mouth. And also they show us how intelligent the monster is. And I think one of my favorite scenes was watching the monster kind of like on monkey bars on the bridge, just like using its tails to kind of like go through. I don't know. It really worked for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of felt like the water thing I was disappointed in, because like other than like 1-2 shots, like this monster's never in the water.
True.
I kind of expected it to be this, water monster, but it's basically just on land the entire time, which to me, I found like less scary.
I'm okay with that.
And I'm also not a big fan, and we've talked about this with tons of movies. Like, I do like the monster design, but I just don't like any sort of film that shows a monster this much.
And that's kind of what I was going to say,
and it doesn't look good. And I get it's 2006.
Get out of here.
For 2006, it probably looks good. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think it was like offensively bad. I've seen worse CGI in modern movies. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say it's like, the greatest CGI
only
ever,
when it's caught on fire is it offensively bad.
Okay, it's pretty bad at that moment. I will agree that
this looks like I'm like watching just like a PlayStation 1 like cutscene.
Cinematic.
And apparently they actually like grilled like fish in the VFX studio, like to actually get like what it looks like a fish on fire for those sections. And they just fire is notoriously difficult to do, right? So it's just like, I appreciate the effort you put into trying to get that. It didn't really pay off. But that's kind of what I want to start with or mention. It's like, I do like the creature design. It is unique. It's, it's something where you can show its silhouette and you can instantly go like, oh, that's the creature from The Host, like for sure. It's not just like a ripoff of like Godzilla or what octopus or something. It's it is its own unique thing. But I was surprised with how quickly they show the monster in this and for how long you get to see him. Don't get me wrong, I do like kind of like the build up, like where they're all like throwing food into the river to try to see like, oh, what is it doing? Like, oh, it's eating, that's kind of like crazy. But like the way they like do it, where it's like the character in the foreground and you just see it kind of like barreling towards him in the background is like people getting flinged into the river, people getting bulldozed over, and it's just like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And you just see him and he's just rampaging around for the next 4 or 5 minutes. I was shocked with how much monster there was like in the forefront of this movie. Like, if you're coming to this for a creature feature, you're seeing the creature within, I don't know, 7 minutes probably of this movie starting. It's insane.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I don't know. I thought it was fine because, like I said, it kept showing different pieces of it. Like, you'd see its eyeball when it's down the sewer, and then like different parts of its leg, and then like inside of its mouth. And I agree that it could have maybe been a bit better, but I didn't think it was like a takeaway.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. It was more like something that I was just surprised, because usually that is the sort of thing in even a lot of creature features is you hide the creature for as long as possible. But for whatever reason, Bong Joon Ho, he just wanted to get this guy out there right away. Like he wanted us all to have a very good image in our head, more or less like what the creature looked like. And I guess maybe like this sequence is probably more similar to like a Godzilla or something, I guess, like with all the chaos of everyone running away from Godzilla. Obviously this creature is much smaller than Godzilla, but that was kind of the vibe I was getting. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that might have been what he was going for.
I read something that he actually wanted to make something kind of like Godzilla and another thing that I hadn't seen before. But that totally aligns. Ultraman, there you go. Don't know what that is.
He basically wanted to make, like a kaiju type thing. And I was going to say, it also makes sense because I did read a interview with him on this, and he was saying that his least favorite thing of creature features was not getting to see the monster. And he wants to always see the monster as much as possible, so he wanted to break those expectations.
In all of his movies, when there's like a creature involved, it's always like integral, right? You always, you know what Oksha and like all of Oksha's kind look like the entire movie. And Mickey 17, where you got these like tardigrades, like creepers, like you see them intimately throughout the whole movie, like within the first 10 minutes you know what they look like, right? Like he's just like, he likes creatures and animals and aliens and whatnot, so he definitely like shows them off.
It's a creature
in his movies.
Feature the creature.
Exactly. I know, it's just usually they're not featured so prominently. Mike, you never mentioned anything yet. Like what do you think of the creature in here? Did you like it? Do you think the design was inspired? Did it show it too much for you? What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I was actually really impressed with A, the design, and B, how good the CG was. I was actually watching it with a couple of my friends. I started watching it on TV, and then my friend was like, oh, I'll watch it too. So we ended up watching it over Discord, which meant I watched it on my laptop. But I was like, constantly, like, we were all saying, like, wow, this looks way better than it should. Because, like, if you think of 2006 CG, like, it is either going to be, like, very competent or really bad. And I don't know why I was expecting the CG in this to be really bad, even though knowing that, like, this man is very skilled. But I really enjoyed it. It was not, like, to me, the monster being on screen that much was, like, not a distraction at all. It just felt natural. Like, it felt like it fit the movie.
Yeah.
It was just another character of the movie instead of being this, like, distant threat that swoops in every now and then. Like, it just felt like it was just part of the movie, you know? Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah. And it looked way better than I thought it was going to from the poster.
Yeah, I agree. I think the poster sucks. Like, you know, as the person who does, like, you know, the album art for a lot of our episodes and whatnot, it's just, there's not a whole lot to work with there, for sure. Like, that poster is awful, especially even, like, the font treatment, where it is, like, almost like an action movie font as well.
Yeah, it's like X-Men.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
It's just kind of cheesy looking. But yeah, I think Rowan's just being a little harsh. I'm usually one of those people that's, like, outspoken about, like, how bad the visual effects are in the movie, and, like, you know, I'll admit, like, no, it's not like we had Davy Jones at this point in time, right? Which is, like, you know, heralded as, like, one of the best visual effects, like, ever for, like, a character, right? Or, you know, Jurassic Park was years and years before this, obviously. But, like, they're also working on, like, different budgetary tiers, or, like, you know, it was a completely different sort of movie. I thought it was pretty good. Like, Weta is the person who designed the creature. Apparently, the artist took, like, 2,000 iterations to get it to where it is. And, you know, they never wound up handling all of the visual effects, but it's just like the creature itself, I think, looks pretty good, you know, for a lot of it. You know, even when you're committing the cardinal sin of, like, showing it in harsh sunlight running around on the beach, or not on the beach, but, like, on the riverbank, you know, more or less. It's, you know, that's the least flattering way to showcase your creature, especially right at the beginning of your movie.
I mean, like I said, I feel like I just felt that ending was really offensive. Because I do have a note that was like, 2006, the CGI isn't, like, that bad.
Oh, okay.
I think it was more so, the fire thing. I was just like, Jesus.
The fire's bad. Yes, absolutely.
And like I said, I think it was because of so much of the tonal shift. That really bugged me this entire movie. And especially where this movie, I think, is way too long. I think there's like a lot of fat that could be cut in this for like a creature feature flick. I mean, I thought it was, like I said, it was just, I don't know if it just was, if I need to watch it again or whatnot. I just, like, I could get it. I'm like, oh, okay, like, I can see the satire in this, even though he, I know he claims that this isn't a satire whatsoever, but I can see like this kind of like dark, black comedy mixed with this monster movie, mixed with like a little bit of political stuff. I know another thing he really argues against is, he says there's like not supposed to be a lot of political stuff in this. If you're taking it from it, then that's just kind of your fault. But it's just that I couldn't help look at it as a satire because I'm like, so many of the things that you're doing comedy-wise are things you wouldn't normally see in like a monster movie. But then it might just be a cultural difference thing where I was just like, a lot of the choices for the comedy and the lighter stuff just didn't work for me. I was like, I don't think it's funny. Like, I didn't laugh at any of this movie when I feel like I was supposed to laugh. And then I also, on the other end, like, I think the creature design's pretty good in this, but I also, like, there was no moment I was, like, scared of the creature or, like, yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, like, the comedy didn't work for me, the scares didn't work for me, and the drama was just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you keep saying, like, the movie was supposed to be apolitical, and it's like, it's not really supposed to be apolitical. It's supposed to be not anti-American, which is a little bit different, which at the time, essentially, a lot of people rallied around this as like, yeah, fuck Americans, especially like, Koreans when they were like obviously learning about the incident that inspired this movie and whatnot. So I think it was causing like legitimately like a little bit of like turmoil between the two countries. So like, yeah, they were very outspokenly, this is not anti-American, but also like apparently Bong Joon Ho was inspired by like, for example, the Iraq War, like, when they invaded Iraq and they were like, oh, we're doing it because there's weapons of mass destruction here. They have nukes and all this stuff. We need to get it. And then eventually it was like, oh, there was none of that. We just wanted a reason to start a war, essentially. So like he's like, that's why the virus in this movie, for example, exists. Or, obviously being inspired by the Americans polluting this river is inherently political to a certain degree, but I just don't think he wanted like people unanimously to hate America, even though a lot of people definitely take that away from this movie. Or it's like, it's kind of like as an international like theater where people are always like, oh yeah, Americans suck, right? They're loud, they're abrasive, they're they don't think about others, that sort of thing. But I think it was supposed to be satirical or political to a certain degree, just not hateful, I guess, which is what some people took from it.
I agree. They won't need much help with that nowadays, but...
No, not nowadays, but in 2006, it wasn't quite as, like, Americans weren't demonized quite as much as they are right in this very instant in history.
Yeah, no, I actually have a note about the political thread through all of this, and it's funny that you said it wasn't supposed to be a political movie, and I wanted kind of more of that politicalness from it. Just comparing it to like how political Train to Busan was, being another Korean horror movie, and I really liked that about that movie, so I kind of expected, I don't know, something more, especially when they were talking about like the Agent Yellow and like the demonstrations and stuff like that. Like I wanted more pushback from like the regular people, and I wanted to see. I
wouldn't argue with that at all. Like to me, I kind of just wish it went more in a direction, any direction than it did. I just felt it was in the middle too much.
It was dipping its toes on a bunch of different genres, and a bunch of different things. Yeah.
Where to me, like if you were gonna have this satirical monster movie, like just fully lean into that, and that's fine. Or if it was gonna be this like super political one, like that would also be fine too. And I think it would have worked better.
Yeah, it is political, whether you want it to be or not. Like you might as well embrace it.
Yeah,
I was gonna say not to be like so cranky because I feel like I don't want to come off like I'm super cranky in this film. I just want to say that first guy jumping off the bridge. Anyone else? I feel like that wouldn't kill him. It wasn't that high up. I feel like you'd probably survive that.
You'd be fine. Yeah, I think so as well. That was like 50 feet.
I just felt like when they really pulled away from it, I was like, I don't know. I feel like maybe I could do that. I can't swim, but I'd die then when I hit the water. But
well, it'd probably be like hitting concrete from that height. But anyway.
That's what Namil did. And it wasn't a very like steep drop when he like jumped down and rolled underneath the bridge. I thought he was dead when he was like texting his sister. Yeah. I was like, he's done.
Oh yeah.
But no.
Well, that was like a moment in this movie that was so strange for me because I was like, what exactly happened here? Did he jump down? Yeah. Now he's just like really tired and he needs to go to bed or something. Like I was actually confused because I was just like, this happened really quick that, you know, we got this whole sequence of him escaping and it has like the percussive music playing and it's kind of cheesy and over the top and it's like a spy thing for 3 minutes or whatever. And it's just like, oh, okay, now he sleeps. You know, now it's I'm tired.
Like the homeless man.
It's just a very strange beat. There was also stuff in this movie where like the sister as well, what's her name, Namju, I think she just kind of like, obviously she gets knocked in kind of like a sewer grate area, but then it's just like, I guess she's just there for a long time. Like it's certainly like 30 minutes of the movie before she's like, you know, woken up and climbs out again, right? There's moments in this movie where I think they develop this like family unit, and I do want to get back to that in a little bit, just about how strong that unit is. But like obviously there's a cast of characters, and it's like you kind of have to just like keep them in place like for periods of time so they can't move forward naturally. And when I was watching this movie, it was just like, I think I was peeking behind and just kind of seeing the artifice a little bit of like, okay, we're keeping the brother here because he can't move out yet. He has to text the sister to let the sister progress this story. And then like, okay, then he can come back at a later point. It was just kind of like I was seeing like kind of the gears turning behind the scenes. Yeah, exactly. Where I was like, oh, this isn't quite as well like massaged as I remembered it.
And it was confusing.
Was kind of like my
too. Like you're always like, okay, where's this character now? Like what's happening now? Because it kind of makes the story a little bit disjointed that way.
Yeah, even with like the father kind of get taken away. Like I think it's about the midpoint of the movie, like when the grandfather dies and then Gongdu gets like taken in for like the experimentation and whatnot. It's just like he's gone for quite a while too, and then he gets kind of like a lobotomy at one point, and I'm like, okay, but like he's not like fundamentally changed, which I guess is a commentary on like still parents like having that like need to like save their children, that even though he has brain surgery, that's still like a driving motivation behind him. It was just like there was stuff like this in the movie that I was just like, okay, this is like, it feels like a little bit of like a diversion compared to where we were going.
Can we talk about the lobotomy? Because they did that character so dirty, like making him so dumb the whole time. Like the dad's saying he's really dumb and it's because he didn't get enough protein or something growing up. Yeah. And then the doctors are like, after he has all of the like anesthesia, there was points where they were talking about like how his brain is like degenerating and it's like a person with dementia. I wasn't sure if that was talking about the anesthesia or the fact that he's like so like dumb.
I think they were talking, I think it was literally like it was supposed to be played partly for a laugh as well, but it was like kind of like his delusions of his daughter still being out there and living in the sewers and all this stuff, right? He's just they were just like, this guy's crazy, like this virus must be, you know, taking over his brain to like come up with these sorts of ideas. And that specific idea of, you know, brain damage or a character kind of coming to this conclusion based on, you know, maybe like head trauma, that is something that's actually in Parasite. So when I was seeing it in this, I was like, interesting. He has certain things that he likes reincorporating in his movies that in this one I just don't really know why it was really in there to whatsoever. But like something for me that wasn't really like a mixed bag to a certain degree is I did think the family was pretty well developed, or at least like I knew where they all stood. There was like moments in the earlier part of the movie where they were kind of like dining together inside of like the little streetcar and whatnot, and like those moments I think oftentimes in Bong Joon Ho movies, those are like my favorite moments, where it's just like the family usually dining, kind of getting to know each other, or like obviously they know each other, but like we're getting to know them, like verbally sparring with one another, you know, learning all like airing out the dirty laundry, that sort of thing. I just thought they did a really good job instantly kind of giving all these characters defining attributes or aspects where it's like, oh, okay, like the uncle's a drunk and like, but he's also like the father figure, and like, oh, the aunt's this great archer, and the father is just a complete failure on every level. That I thought it was like interesting, where it was like, okay, it is a little bit silly and a little bit hokey, but like at least I felt like I knew these characters right away. So when like he loses his daughter 10 minutes into the movie, I can at least feel like, oh, okay, at least I knew like the vibe they had, or the relation that they had, that I thought that was pretty well done.
The characters, like you said, you immediately know who they are and the relationship between them all. And as soon as you saw the bow and arrow, you knew that was going to be used on the monster. Chekhov's,
of course. Absolutely.
Chekhov's bow and arrow.
Yeah.
So I have like a kind of a random question here. I'm looking at my notes. Like, so when they break into one of the huts and they're eating, it's like dark and they're kind of all eating because they hadn't eaten forever. Are they just hallucinating that girl is there? Like, is that what
they're imagining his daughter there with them?
Okay,
yeah, eating with
like,
all of them.
It's just like decisions like these. Like I was like, I have no idea what it. Like I understood. I'm like, well, she's not there, obviously.
Yeah.
But it just like it didn't look enough of like, I guess like a hallucination. I'm like, is this a group hallucination? What's going on here? And like no one says anything, so I'm just like, okay. Like,
well, no one addresses her, right? Like that could just be something for the audience, like showing like how this family unit used to be together, right? And now they're missing a key point of it, and I think it cuts from that scene to her like gathering water.
Dirty,
Well, and I knew they didn't address her, but I guess I was just curious because like they show like people are like handing her stuff and like she's taking it, and I was like, so at first I was like, oh, did we just rescue her? And like we didn't explain that.
It can be
something?
confusing. No, I agree. That's like one of the things about that I meant, like it being kind of disjointed. Like sometimes it was kind of difficult to follow because of transitions like that.
Well, and I just found too, like, especially like where we get the younger boy that obviously plays more prominence towards the end, like it almost seems like, okay, now we're gonna like follow these, him and his brother for a little bit. And I was just like stuff like that. I was like, I don't really know if I like needed that. They could have just kind of found this boy, like maybe he's in the pile of bodies still alive, and then she rescues him. I don't really need
him,
and he can say, oh, that's my brother dead there. So like I don't really need to know per se. So there was stuff like that. And then like I said, the boy was weird when he was listing his favorite foods. Am I the only one that had like a little visceral problem with those cuts going on? And I was like,
but like that was a stylistic choice, right? Like it wasn't like Leprechaun 5 or whatever it was, where like the guy is walking the distance across the bridge, right? It was literally like he's just thinking and he's listing off all these foods, right? So yeah, it's a little cut just to show the passage of time. I mean, I was fine with that, but
it threw me off a bit. I was like, I was like, okay, a positive. The dad's
come on, Rowan, say one positive.
The dad's death. I thought the dad's death was pretty brutal.
Yeah, man.
I was like
the grandfather's death,
or the grandfather. Sorry, the grandfather. Yeah. I thought that was pretty brutal. Like the like getting smashed on the pavement by the.
That's like
tail.
One of the things, in my opinion, that showcases like the malevolence and the brutality of the monsters. He does that to get back at them, and just like leaves them to kind of grieve with it. And I think it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I like that sequence as well too. Just the way it's shot, the brutality of the impact, all those sorts of things. This movie uses a lot of slow-mo, and most of the time I'm pretty allergic to that, or like I don't like it. I do think that in this one, when he does use slow motion, it's usually like because you're seeing a reaction on like a character's face, or in this specific moment, it's kind of like the impact of like the character flying through the air, and what's coming. And yeah, I just thought it was a powerful moment. There was a few moments throughout that the slow-mo was used to great effect, specifically like earlier in the movie where like he trips and he reaches back and he grabs the girl's hand, and he pulls her along, and then it winds up not being his daughter.
Awful.
And like and he turns around and the creature's like right there about to get her. It was just like a gut punch. It was so brutal. So I like the use of a lot of the slow motion in this movie. I think it usually ratchets things up a little bit.
I have a question. What do you think the name of the movie means, the host.
Oh, well, I have a quote here from him all about that. Do you want me to read it, or do you want us to talk about it?
I have no idea what it means, honestly.
Yeah, so this is what he said about the meaning behind the film's title, and I specifically picked it out for a certain reason. But he says, a host is the opposite of the word parasite. But if you were to expand on that here in the film, the central focal point of the film is the protagonist's family, this loser family. Whatever is tormenting this family, that is making life hard for them or oppressing them. You could say that whoever or whatever is not helping them on the whole. It's a host of all these things. It could be the creature itself. It could be the system that doesn't help them. It could be Korean society, America, a wide spectrum of meaning for this host. So for me, as a huge Parasite fan, I just thought it was interesting that it was like back in 2006 or whatever, when he was doing these interviews, he was relating, the host to the Parasite. And then, 15 years later, pretty much, he would come out with a movie literally called Parasite, where the kind of the core of that is dealing with a down on their luck family that's exploring like the socioeconomic disparities in Korea, and ultimately how the whole system is failing them without a distinct creature to speak of. And with that movie Parasite, that was something like when I recommended it to my parents, like they were really disappointed in the movie just because it was literally like they thought there was going to be a creature. They thought there was going to be a parasite that is infecting these people, right? Especially like since this guy did creature movies in the past. But it's literally like, no, it's funny. Like he's relating this relationship between a host and a parasite, but in Parasite, it's all metaphor So I had that out there for that reason. But yeah, in the movie itself, it talks about how, like, obviously the creature is the host of this virus. And, what is the virus in the movie? It's obviously imaginary. So is it fear? Is it control?
Oh, shit. That's deep.
Crazy.
No,
right?
Actually, when you said it's the opposite of Parasite, my brain kind of like exploded. So wow.
That's
well, I just read that. I'm just the messenger. That's not all me. But,
I'm excited.
So I had a note about this, and I don't know how we all feel about this. I know that I can kind of assume that whenever COVID comes up, we're pretty tired of talking about it, or like it's not really a period that we like to relive. But when I last watched this movie, I didn't know anything about COVID, right? It was the sort of thing where obviously it was being reported from labs in China or whatever at the time. But when I was watching this, I was like, oh, okay, like cool. Like this is kind of crazy. Watching this now in a post-COVID world, I was like kind of shocked with how certain things were like actually pretty realistic, or like kind of like irksome to me when I was watching. Like, for example, one of the main scenes that kind of like stick out in my head is like, it's like the street corner, right? And we're all standing on the sidewalk, and there's the one guy coughing with his mask on, and then eventually, people are slowly moving away from him a little bit. Yeah. He takes his mask off and spits in the puddle, and it splashes on all of them. Like, obviously, in the movie, that's supposed to be comedic, but now after having lived through COVID, instantly I'm like kind of like, well, fuck this guy. Like, it's something when I was watching this movie that I was so cognizant of like, oh, the face masks, or the the quarantining, or the all these aspects. I was like, oh god, it now feels like too accurate in certain ways. That was like detracting a little bit from the movie for me, that I was like, I don't really need to see this.
Especially with how Korea handled the pandemic. Like, they did really well, and they did in this movie too. Like the lengths that they went to try and quarantine the family. Like, if we had done that during COVID, oh my god, we would have eradicated the virus.
I'm just scared to be around Colton now. I feel like if Colton was in this movie, he's like, fuck this guy, and he's like, initiating a gang beating going on this guy.
I'm talking about people not, especially when in the heights of the pandemic, not being like respectful of others. That more so, it was terrible. But also for me, when I was watching this, that the movie kind of ends on this rhetoric of the government like fabricating this virus, and it's it never existed, and it's essentially like these sentiments that were like spread around by like anti-vaxxers during COVID, that I was like, if this movie was released in 2025, so many people that love it would hate it, because it would be literally like aligning with a sort of like ideology and rhetoric that most of us have like, I think, have come to like basically rally against in, after COVID. But so like watching it, like the last time when I watched it, I was like, I loved it. And then watching it now, it's kind of like, oh, some of this stuff like hits a little different now. And I don't know if it like ruins the movie for me, but it just feels different now that it's like the movie's like, oh, can you believe it? The government fabricated all this. It's like, God, we've been hearing this shit for 5 years now. You know? Yeah.
You have this on your list on Letterboxd. So you call movies that open your eyes to the elitist globalists.
Oh yeah, this is on my big anti-vaxxer movement list. Yeah.
Yeah, that stuff was crazy, and I thought a lot of that stuff actually really worked for me. The highlight of this entire movie to me, I really enjoyed. I can't think of the character's name, but it's the collegehood friend when he's trying to locate his
phone.
Oh my God, really? That's your favorite part of this movie?
I love him. He's so funny.
I thought it was so funny. And just when he's like running out of the building and the guy's giving him the thumbs up, trying to pretend like he's not the narc. Yeah, I did get a big laugh out of that. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, you know, he was peer pressured into it. And I think that also goes with exactly what you were talking about, Colton. Like, I think about a lot of people, you know, that you talk to now. Like, I even know people like I work with and stuff that, you know, gung-ho. You know, you got to get the vaccine to work because we're in like a medical place. Yep, cool. Yeah. And now when you talk to them, they'll like cry in your face and, you know, they'll be like, they forced me to do it. And like,
yeah, I've been hating that too. I have friends that were very passionately like pro-vaccine like during that time, or we're like, oh, obviously we got to get it. Like that's, you know, it's just kind of par for the course. And now they're kind of like changed a little bit where it's like, oh, well, if hindsight was 2020, maybe I wouldn't have got it now and all this stuff. And I'm just like, all right, man.
I'm tired.
Like, I don't know. Like, it's just, yeah, it's like, it's annoying to kind of like have those people around.
As we all shove big backs into our mouth and we complain. Anyway, This isn't that kind of podcast. That's the new sidecast me and Colton are working on. The COVID-19.
No, I'm good. I don't need to discuss it. It was just something that is like impossible not to think of when watching this movie, at least for me now, you know?
No, for sure.
I had a note on the ending. How did we all feel about this? Because specifically, like, you know, Hyun-soo, or like her name, like, I'm going to butcher it. I don't speak Korean, but like her dying, but then also the boy kind of living, and then Gangdu kind of like taking the boy in and being like, oh, I got a new kid now, you know, and I got a new chance to be like a good dad this time now, essentially. And also just like the machinations of like how they killed the monster and everything. Like, how did we feel about how all that played out? I remembered, obviously, that the arrow factored in, obviously, into killing the monster. But I don't know if I remembered that, like, his daughter died and, like, he got a new kid and all this stuff. How did we feel about that?
I liked it.
Okay. It was shocking.
Rowan's like, another dead person. Yes, bring it on.
Well, I mean, I thought one of the things the movie lacked was like overall deaths, even though like we see people and bones and stuff in the pit,
like a graveyard of bones.
But I mean, it's not something, you know, like generally in like a monster horror movie we're seeing these people like get killed, right? Like, so we don't really, everything's kind of off screen. You know, other than this monster running around, you know, at the beginning there, I'm not like, there's not a lot of monster havoc really in this. So the ending I kind of enjoyed. Plus, you know, we just talked about the brother like jumping off the bridge and then, you know, going for a sleep. Like, they set up a lot of stuff where you're like, oh, that person's dead now. And then they're not. Like, people just keep, the sister. I thought the sister, I was like, oh, she's dead now. Like,
yeah, they have plot armor for a lot of it.
Yeah. So someone actually dying in this that I was like, okay. Like, the grandfather, I mean, I feel like everyone knew. You knew the minute the movie started. Like, the grandfather's probably going. Like, that's, you know, so that the siblings can kind of bond together further. But I was like, yeah, it had some real consequences. But like you said, it was also kind of funny that he just like didn't care. It was like, cool. Now I have this new kid. I also thought it was kind of funny that the new kid also seems to like be dumb, just like him also. Like, well, no, but they kind of portray it at the ending there. It's like they just kind of
they're happy being dumb.
They just care about like they're happy. They're just eating their food and
they're ignoring.
They're good.
But I mean, we all feel that nowadays, right? We got to turn off the news and stop listening to this shit. And let's just
that scene was very impactful.
At least I can relate to that.
I mean, what about the real end where the credits go? And my note was, why are we listening to music that would also be in a Wes Anderson film? I thought it was just really interesting choice.
Was it really quirky and upbeat? I don't remember.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I was like, this is yet again another total tonal shift that I was like, this music I don't think is in any of the movie, but it's just like, I was like, yeah, this would be at like the end of Royal Tenenbaums.
Yeah, the music in this is all over the place. It's literally like, I don't know if it ever actually goes full blown horror music at really any point in time.
I don't think.
It's like weird, quirky, really over the top percussive, or then it's almost like this operatic, like almost like an adventure sort of music that's playing, that I was just like, we've reviewed some older movies where it was the sort of thing where it seemed like they never had the horror score developed yet. And when I was listening to this movie, it was like, it felt like it would have been from that time where they didn't know exactly how to score it because it was all over the place. It was just weird. So I would agree with that.
It was.
Yeah. But the ending for me, I don't know if it really worked for me this time. I don't know if maybe I was missing something a little bit emotionally. I don't know if it was just like I wasn't clear on how the code or the Agent Yellow or whatever was going to affect them. I thought they were all going to die essentially.
Yeah.
Or, you know, there was aspects of it that just felt a little bit messy. Like it felt maybe emotionally fine. Like obviously storming into the Agent Yellow to save your try and save your daughter, and you know, to kill the creature and all this. It was just like I thought this stuff was like gonna lay waste to all of them. You know, they'd be bleeding out of their eyes and, you know, just dead basically instantly if you inhaled this, right?
I agree. I thought the same thing, and that's actually one of my nitpicks for the movie is like the ambiguity of Agent Yellow. Like, how come it's like really affecting the monster, but the family is right there and it's not really doing anything to them or the other people.
Yeah.
And everyone else is bleeding out their ears instantly.
And there's a couple people that drop on the ground and seem to be presumed dead in the crowd sort of thing. You know, they're talking about 2 or 3 people in, you know, little groups. I agree. I didn't really understand exactly like what was happening there or how deadly it was.
That plot armor. But going back to the ending, I was kind of pissed that the little boy, I think his name is Seijin, lived, because the girl, Hyunseo, whatever her name is, she had such a will to live. And, you know, I really thought she was going to get this boy out and they would both kind of survive, or at least she would get him out and then he would die and she would live on. Yeah. But it was really shocking that she died and this little boy lived.
Yeah, I think my issue with it is that it just clearly happens off screen, right? It's like essentially like she does this big moment of trying to escape, like running up the creature, like that's a cool sequence for sure. Where where they make like the rope and she runs up it and jumps up and gets it, and you think that she's gonna escape, but she's just being held in the midair by the tail. And then kind of like how she turns around and basically rushes back into the storm drain, and it just cuts away, and then you don't ever really see. The next time you see her, she's dead already, right? Like it didn't feel like as heroic enough of a moment, I guess, or like a sacrifice to save the other kid or something like that to me, where it would have made me feel a little bit more fine with her death. It was more like I was just surprised, especially as Rowan already alluded to. There's multiple times in this movie where it already feels like a character might be dead or, you know, at least like, oh, they're immobile for a while, you know? So I was the sort of thing where I was just kind of surprised more than anything. Not necessarily upset, just like, oh, this wasn't set up as well as I would have liked.
I was upset because she really, you know, went through all of this of like, you know, building the little rope of clothes, and she told the boy to stay there and she'd bring back help, and, you know, she was like gonna do something. Like she climbed up on that monster. But he fucked it up because he came over because he's an idiot and he wouldn't stay there, and he's just like, and then the monster wakes up and he gets to live, and the whole time this kid is just like a waste of space.
Oh my god.
So yeah, I was pissed.
Yeah, it didn't really have any like gravity.
Yeah, I agree.
That was also that did annoy me about it. Because they do cut to like, I want to say like a 2 or 3 second scene where they're inside the monster. Ooh. And like you can see them and they're still alive. Because I remember saying to my friends like, oh, like this is, you know, me live from inside this monster's throat. Like,
okay, yes, please.
And then it just cuts away, and like obviously then the whole finale thing happens, and the agent. I almost said Agent Orange because that's obviously what they're referencing.
Yeah, that's what they're going for. Yeah,
but Yeah, and then they're both the kids are just like lying there immobile, and I was like, oh, okay, this is like before when you thought they were dead, but they're just being like held in this lair, and then cut to the end, and it's like, oh, she's dead and he's alive. Like it just didn't. It didn't sit well with me either because there was no gravity to it. Like it seemed like it was going to be another fake out where they're like getting upset about it, and then it's like, oh, but she's actually alive. Like she's going to cough or whatever. And it's like, oh no, she's just dead. And then it's like, okay, it's done and over with. And I'm like, come on, like she deserves so much more than that. She deserves a better send off.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like obviously the sudden death or the unexpected death can be tragic in it for sure. But it was just like for me, it just didn't feel like set up well enough or like respectful of the character enough. Like because as you said, we've seen them be transported inside the monster throughout the movie and still come out on the other side fine. So it's not like an oxygen thing or anything like that. It's like we've already bought into that they can survive that sort of transportation. So yeah, it was strange.
So did you guys have any other notes for this film, or are we good to go in the rating it? So let's land the plane on this one and get into rating it. Our rating system, if you're new to the program, is nay, okay, yay, or slay. Colton, we mentioned that you gave this a 4.5 on Letterboxd.
Yeah. I don't know if we actually mentioned that during this recording or not, but the last time I watched this, I gave this a 4.5, which is pretty insane. It's like I must have just been in like a different point, like once again pre-COVID, in kind of like the build up to like Bong Joon Ho obviously going to win the Oscar and like how amazing Parasite was. When I was watching it this time, there was definitely a lot more issues I had with it. More of like how I'd remember like kind of the first couple times I watched it, because like full transparency, this was never like a masterpiece or one of my favorite movies. It's something that I've seen a fair number of times, but it's like, yeah, it was always good. And after watching it this time, that's kind of where I fall on it. It was like, I like the creature, design. I think the VFX are fine for the time it came out. I like the family unit. It's just like, I do think tonally it's a little inconsistent or a little strange. And to be fair, a lot of Bong Joon Ho's movies are tonally strange, and a lot of South Korean cinema is strange. It winds up like striking tones oftentimes where in an American movie like it just wouldn't work whatsoever, but usually for whatever reason they're better at like melding it together and making it work. And like Parasite is like a perfect example of that. So when I was watching it this time, tonally it didn't really work for me. I do agree with Rowan that it was a little long, mostly because we were going in directions that I don't think were like super interesting for me to explore, where it's like, oh, you probably could have shaved a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, that sort of thing. So yeah, at the end of the day, I think I'm just going to settle on a yay. I think it was good. I didn't regret watching it again. It did hit a little bit different in a post-COVID world, but I still like a lot of what he's doing here. And it's no Parasite, but very, very few movies are Parasite to me. So yeah, that's a yay from me. What about you, Jill?
Yeah, so when I first put this on, and once we got clips of the monster like depositing the bodies in like the sewer drain or whatever it was, I really expected this movie to go in a different direction, especially with the title. I really thought that we were going to get some kind of like alien-esque thing where the monster was like depositing, I don't know, like worms or like some kind of parasite into these people. Yeah, I thought they were going to come back to life, honestly. And that's what I thought was going to happen to the family. I thought they were all infected, and like I was really expecting it to go that way. And honestly, that would have been really cool. But I was happy with what I got. The fake out of the virus was an interesting direction, but I thought that the movie was funny. It was entertaining. I was pretty much hooked the whole time. I thought the monster was very cool. It was scary to me, and yeah, I don't know. It was a fun time. So I'm also going to give it a yay. Mike, how do you rate the host?
Okay, so it's just funny because like for years I was like, I want to watch it, but I'm also like kind of hesitant to, because it looked like it could be really stupid and lame. But like I really enjoyed it. I thought it was like super fun. Like it was a lot funnier than I thought it was going to be, and like intentionally so. Yeah. It was just like really smart, and I mean, like we said, there were inconsistencies and stuff, and there were some kind of like plot threads or like set pieces that went on a bit too long. I really would have liked it to be like 15 minutes shorter.
I agree.
Like,
yeah, I think that would.
And it's weird because like there's stuff that they tease at that I kind of thought, oh, that's why it's so long. They're going to get into that, and then they never do. And like, you know, like the whole setup for the incident that like, you know, causes the monster and stuff. But like, I don't know. It was still, to me, very skillfully done. It was fun to watch with friends and just kind of like crack jokes at. I thought there were a lot of like really beautiful shots in it, and I loved the actors. I thought that like the characters were obviously the like center of this movie, and they were very well drawn. And like you said, immediately you know who they are. Like you kind of get that like sense of like their archetype or whatever, but not in a like not in a shady way. Like, yeah. But you know, it's like they have a strong sort of like personality type. So I'd totally give it a yay. I'd definitely watch it again. I would love to. I watched it on Tubi, and it didn't look as good as I think it probably does if you watch it like, you know, in a theater or on a Blu-ray or something. So yeah, I would like to actually like see a nice non-Tubi streaming version of this. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch it again. Ro, what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I had the most to complain about it, but that, you know, you guys kind of, a lot of my complaints, you know, you guys kind of said like the length and time. I thought this could use to be pared down. I thought some of the tonal shifts were jarring to me, and you know, I kind of think the more I reflect on it, like maybe it's just that I was going into it expecting something totally different, and then, you know, not getting that. So I was just like, oh, this is kind of weird, not what I expected. And, you know, like I said, I'm a big, also like Colton, like a big fan of Parasite. I love Parasite. So I was really excited to watch this. And I mean, you can definitely tell, you know, from this to Parasite, like how he's grown and perfected his craft. I mean, I think it's only fair. I'm going to give it an okay, just because I really, like, I don't know if I would watch this again or not. I mean, knowing me, I probably will, just because I'm interested to see, kind of knowing what it is now, coming into it again and being like, okay, let's see if, now that I know, like, the tones and everything, how I'd feel about that now. Yeah. Like I said, I know Tubi right now pretty much has everything he's done up right now, so I'm kind of interested. I might even watch some of the other ones. I've never seen anything else by him, so
you'd probably like Snowpiercer.
For sure.
I was gonna say I hear great things about Snowpiercer. I hear great things about a lot of the other movies. Like, yeah, almost everyone I know really enjoys his stuff. But yeah, I think to be fair to myself and how much I griped about it, I feel like I'm just gonna give it an okay. So send all the hate mail my way this time. Yeah, so 3 A's and an okay will be our rating for The Host. So we told you what we thought about the film, and we asked you what you thought, and nobody wrote in.
Oh my God.
No, not a single person wrote in about The Hosts. I don't know if that means anything, but I do have something to read here.
Okay.
Because I never want to leave someone out. And I noticed that when we did Leprechaun in the Hood, someone wrote in after we had recorded the episode on Facebook. And
wow.
I know I think they're a fairly like new follower. So I wanted to let them know that I will make sure, like I always make sure that you get read and you get heard. So yeah, if we can just put ourselves mentally in Leprechaun in the Hood again for a second, and I'll just let you know what Damian Knight wrote us, which also shout out, I think they've wrote in before, and I've commented to Mike that their profile picture is Billy Zane, so, you know, just salute. But they wrote in and said about Leprechaun, this movie is like seeing a hairless cat for the first time. It may be hard to look at, but you're absolutely going to tell your friends what you just saw.
Oh,
I have no idea how to rate it. Part nay, part slay. I can't wait to hear the group's thoughts on this one.
Well, hopefully we didn't let you down. That's a great review.
Yeah,
I'm obsessed.
A hairless cat.
Definitely.
I think I agree with that. So with that, we did get Nicholas calling into the horrific hotline. So we'll go over and see what Nicholas had to say about The Host.
I really like The Host. I think it is a very fun movie. It is really entertaining, and it is this weird mix of genres that some Eastern Asian movies, some Korean movies tend to do, where they mix together a bunch of different ideas, and there are some horror elements in it, with this creature feature, but also the isolation part, like it's an infection or a virus thriller. There is some comedy, there is a lot of drama, it's family drama, and overall, for me, it works perfectly, what they did there. I like most of the characters, and I even like, or especially like in this movie, which is strange, but I like the parts where the characters are really infuriating, and this father character the father of the little girl who really can't get a grip on his own life, and for me, it makes a perfect mix. Which is why I am leaning towards a sleigh right now.
Oh my goodness.
There are a few things holding me back, even though I couldn't particularly name them. It's just having watched Parasite again recently as well, and also having very fond memories of a murder.
Great taste, Nicholas.
I prefer those bunch above The Host still. But again, I'm somewhere between a yay and a slay. Maybe your discussion will get me either way. But that is a really cool pick. I like the creature design. I think the special effects are, decent enough at least. And the first sequence where the thingy, the monster, actually attacks people is great cinema. And yeah, I'm not sure what I really feel about the ending, so I'm looking forward to hearing you discuss the ending, hopefully. But overall, yeah, somewhere between the yay and the slay. And I spoke about it, maybe not next week, but would you consider Memories of a Murder as a movie that you would cover? It's more like a crime thriller, procedural thriller. But maybe you can squeeze it in a way that it is a horror movie, just like you did with Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
True.
Memories of Murder is that's like a crime, like more like a David Fincher sort of movie, right?
Okay.
Like you guys have definitely done movies that don't fit like the mold of like an actual horror movie for sure, or like, thematically it's horrifying. It's just, I think if we open up that can of worms, like if we did Memories of Murder, it's just literally like, okay, well then we could do like Seven, and then we could do whatever other murder movies are around. I mean, Silence of the Lambs, I guess, is a pretty good comparison. It's just Memories of Murder. From what I remember, it doesn't even have as many like genre trappings as that one.
You open up that can of worms, Nicholas. Next thing you know, Colton's picking Veggie Tales, and we're talking about Veggie Tales.
No, the obvious thing for me is like, if Memories of Murder is fair game, then Parasite's fair game, and then we're gonna have a conversation about one of my favorite movies of all time. Legitimately, right? Which we can't do that.
And Nicholas, I will say, I read your email, Nicholas, and Nicholas did nothing in his email but throw shade at me.
Oh, really?
Just shade brigading it up. He said in the email that he was back on board with our picks, that he liked us doing foreign stuff. He hoped we did more foreign stuff. But he did write a little message to me that said the devil on his shoulder hopes that I accidentally watched the Stephanie Meyers adaptation of Host.
My God.
No joke.
Just because we make him watch Leprechaun movies.
So no joke. Originally, I was going to do a gag where I read the synopsis for a bunch of other movies called The Host, because there's literally like 3 or 4 of them.
On Tubi, there's at least like 6.
Yeah, and then there's obviously then there's Host from a couple years ago as well, right? And I was just like, it'll be too corny. I'll just be fucking doing synopsises for 3 minutes. But yeah, Nicholas, we did briefly discuss the ending, and it's we don't really have a whole lot to say about it either. But if you want to be like Nicholas and leave us a voicemail, you can do so by sending your message into itslayspodcast@gmail.com or hitting us up on any of our social medias at itslayspodcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Slasher, Letterboxd, Threads, Bluesky, TikTok. If there's a social media that is not Twitter, we're probably there at itslayspodcast. And if you want to help support the show financially, like our horror hounds Holly, Nicholas, Mark, Steven, Dan, Brian, Trevor, and James, gain access to the Patreon exclusive show Stream Screams, hosted by Jill, and get episodes of this here main show 48 hours early, be sure to head on over to patreon.com/itslayspodcast and choose whatever tier works best for you. Rowan, we did discuss the music in this movie. I don't think any of it is playlist.
I don't think any circus music is going on the playlist.
No.
But you can head over to Spotify to the It's Lays Podcast horrific playlist, and you can hit follow. If you have any problems finding it, you can go to the Linktree link in the bio of any of the social media that Colton just mentioned. We update it regularly. We put scores and licensed music from iconic horror movies we review, or just horror movies we love. So yeah, follow the playlist, get your spooky music on, because why the hell not? Last but not least, it's to announce the next episode, and it's my pick. And if you...
Stephanie Meyer's the host.
Stephanie Meyer's the host coming up. And it's funny, Nicholas, kind of mentioned something. I left something out of my what I've been consuming because I knew it was going to be a pick. So I purposefully did that. And we're gonna test the limits of what's a horror movie. So
poor Mike's here rolling his eyes. He's upset.
Listen, if there's anyone that is like commits the crime of is it a horror movie the most, it is Mike. So I think we're gonna have to get a little bit Jurassic with my pick. I am picking Jurassic Park 2, The Lost World.
Or, as it's actually known
as,
The Lost World, Jurassic Park.
So, I knew Colton was going to be pumped about this. Yeah.
I've seen it many times. Spoilers.
We're going to revisit the world of Jurassic Park. And Mike looks thrilled. If a picture could say a million words, it says slay all over his face.
And just letting our listeners know, horror is not listed as a genre anywhere for this. It's all, action, adventure, sci-fi, not horror. But, let's do it.
I am coming fully prepared to make my arguments
of
why I think this is more of a horror than the original Jurassic Park.
Wow. All right. Well, we'll get into it.
Yeah. Get The Lost World, Jurassic Park into your eyeballs and hopefully not your colon. And we will be back. As always, thank you for all the support. I am your humble host, Rowan.
Bye, it's Mike.
I'm Colton.
And bye, it's Jill.
See you later.